Hey there, welcome back to Story Slices, where we slice through the best Reddit tales just for you. Let's dive right into the first story. The first one is the Tittle story, and it starts like this. The first time I noticed something was wrong at my Lakeside property was during my spring visit last year. The property has been in my family for 4 generations. My grandfather built the original cabin with his own hands back in the 1940s, and though we've modernized it over the years, it's still a modest place compared to some of the McMansions that have popped up around the lake recently. I'm a real estate attorney by trade, which has made me particularly careful about property lines and documentation. When my father passed the property to me 15 years ago, I immediately had a proper survey done and filed all the paperwork with the county. I visit about once a month during the summer and a few times during the off-season to check on things and do maintenance. It's going to be my retirement home someday, so I take good care of it. The property next door had changed hands about 6 months before my spring visit. The previous owners were an elderly couple who'd been there even longer than my family. They were wonderful neighbors, quiet, respectful, and always willing to keep an eye on my place when I wasn't around. When they decided to move to be closer to their grandkids, I was sad to see them go. The new owners were from the city. I'd heard through the local grapevine that he was some kind of finance executive and she didn't work. They immediately started renovations on the house, turning what had been a charming lakeside cottage into something that looked like it belonged in an architectural magazine. All winter, I'd been hearing from other neighbors about the constant construction, the complaints about contractors, and the general disruption they were causing. Still, I wasn't prepared for what I found that April weekend when I drove up for my first visit of the season. There, straddling the property line between my land and theirs, was a partially constructed detached garage. And not just any garage, this was a massive structure that looked like it could house a small yacht. The worst part? At least a third of it was clearly on my property. I parked my car and walked over to inspect the construction more closely. The concrete foundation had been poured, and framing was underway. I took out my phone and started taking photos, my blood pressure rising with each shot. As I was documenting the encroachment, a shiny SUV pulled into the neighboring driveway. A woman stepped out, dressed in what I could tell were expensive casual clothes, oversized sunglasses perched on her head. "Can I help you?" she called out, her tone immediately suspicious. I introduced myself as her neighbor and the owner of the property she was building on. "Oh, you're the one with the little cabin," she said, looking past me toward my modest place with barely concealed disdain. "I'm surprised we haven't met before. I don't live here full-time yet," I explained. "But I do own this property, and I couldn't help but notice that your new garage is partially on my land." She laughed, a short, dismissive sound. "Oh, that? It's just a small strip of land. It's not like you're using it for anything." "Whether I'm using it or not isn't relevant," I said, trying to keep my tone even. "It's my property." She waved her hand dismissively. "The previous owners told us we could use that area. They said it was fine. Did you get that in writing?" I asked. Her expression hardened. "We had a verbal agreement. Besides, we need somewhere to store our boats and jet skis. Do you know how much we paid for our house? This garage will increase your property value too. You should be thanking us." I took a deep breath. "I'd like to see your building permits and the survey you used for this construction." "I don't have to show you anything," she snapped. "My husband handles all of that. He'll be home this evening." "I'd be happy to discuss this with both of you," I said. "But construction needs to stop until we sort this out." "Good luck with that," she said, turning to walk away. "The contractors are coming back tomorrow." I spent the rest of the day looking through my own documentation and contacting the county offices. By evening, I had confirmed what I already knew. The property line was exactly where I remembered it, and their garage was definitely encroaching. Around 7 p.m., I walked back over, this time finding both a woman and a man I assumed was her husband at home. I introduced myself again. "My wife mentioned you had some concerns about the garage," he said, his tone more professional than hers had been. "I'm sure we can work something out." I showed him the property survey and explained the situation. He looked at it with a frown. "Our contractor assured us this was within our property line," he said. "Did you get a survey done before you started building?" I asked. "We used the markers that were already there," the woman cut in. "Besides, like I told you, the previous owner said we could use that area. Even if they did, which I doubt, knowing them, verbal agreements about land use don't carry over when property changes hands," I explained. "And they certainly don't override legal property lines." The husband at least had the decency to look concerned. "What are you suggesting we do?" "The simplest solution would be to modify the plans and move the portion that's on my property," I said. "I understand you've already put money into this, and I don't want to cause unnecessary hardship." The woman stepped forward, her face flushing. "Do you have any idea how much that would cost? We're not changing anything. This is just a petty neighborhood squabble. If you were here full-time, maybe you'd have more say, but you're barely even using the property." "That's not how property ownership works," I said, my patience wearing thin. I'm trying to be reasonable here, but reasonable would be minding your own business, she interrupted. Our house is worth 3 times what your little cabin is. We're improving the whole area. I think we should consult our attorney, the husband said, putting a hand on his wife's arm. Go ahead, I said, but I'm also going to file a formal complaint with the county about the unpermitted construction. Are you threatening us? The woman demanded. No, I'm informing you of my next steps if we can't resolve this amicably, I replied. You'll be hearing from our lawyer, she said. And good luck making any friends around here after this. You know, people talk. As I walked back to my cabin, I could hear her voice carrying across the yard, still berating me. The next morning, construction continued as if our conversation had never happened. I filed my complaint with the county building department and called my own lawyer. He confirmed what I already knew. I was completely within my rights to demand they remove the portion of the structure on my property. Over the next few weeks, things escalated. While I was away, they'd apparently decided to take additional liberties with my property. When I returned for my next visit, I discovered they'd cut down 2 mature trees on my side of the line, claiming they blocked their view. They'd also extended their dock in a way that made it difficult for me to access part of my own waterfront. Their parties became increasingly frequent and loud, with guests parking on the edge of my property without permission. When I asked them to have their friends park elsewhere, the woman, who by now I'd heard other neighbors referring to as the entitled city lady, told me I was being ridiculous about a little strip of grass. I sent a formal cease and desist letter, which she dramatically tore up in front of several other neighbors while loudly proclaiming that I was ruining the community spirit of the lake. The final straw came when I discovered they'd installed security cameras, pointed at my property. When I asked about them, she claimed they were for security, but with a smirk that suggested intimidation was the real purpose. Throughout all of this, I documented everything meticulously. Photos, videos, dates, times, and witnesses. I'd also been talking with other neighbors and discovered I wasn't their only target. They'd been making demands about boat noise, fishing too close to their water, and even complaining about children being too loud at the public beach. My lawyer filed all the necessary paperwork, and we requested an emergency hearing with the county. The building inspector came out and confirmed the encroachment, issuing a stop work order that they promptly ignored. The inspector added fines for continuing construction without addressing the violations, but they seemed unfazed by this. Apparently, money was no object. After 2 months of this back and forth with no resolution, I decided more decisive action was needed. My lawyer assured me that with all the documentation and official findings, I was within my legal rights to remove structures encroaching on my property, provided I didn't damage any portion that was on their land. I waited until a weekend when I knew they would be away. They'd made quite a show of telling everyone about their trip to some exclusive resort. I hired a reputable demolition company that specialized in precise removals, making sure they understood exactly where the property line was. On a quiet Saturday morning, the crew arrived with their equipment. Several longtime neighbors came over to watch, offering coffee and moral support. One elderly gentleman who'd lived on the lake for 60 years sat in a lawn chair, grinning from ear to ear. Been waiting to see someone stand up to those two, he told me. They tried to tell me my boat was unsightly and should be kept in storage when not in use. On a lake, where I've lived since before they were born. The demolition was precise and professional. Only the portion of the garage that encroached on my land was removed, leaving a clean cut exactly at the property line. The crew also installed boundary markers and, at my lawyer's suggestion, a row of small but visible no trespassing signs. I had my own security cameras installed, properly positioned to monitor only my property. As a final touch, I had a surveyor come out and paint a bright line marking the exact property boundary. Everything was done by the book, with proper permits and documentation. 3 days later, I was sitting on my porch when I heard the unmistakable sound of their SUV returning. There was a moment of silence, then a scream so loud it probably scared fish in the middle of the lake. What happened to my garage? I remained on my porch, sipping my coffee, as the woman stormed toward my property, her husband hurrying behind her. "What did you do?" she shrieked, stopping at the newly marked property line, her face contorted with rage. "I removed the portion of your structure that was on my property," I said calmly, "as I'm legally entitled to do." "You had no right," she screamed. "We're calling the police. You're going to jail for this." "Feel free to call them," I replied. "I have all the documentation right here, including the building inspector's report confirming the encroachment." Her husband was on his phone, presumably calling the police, while she continued to berate me with language that would make a sailor blush. At one point, she stepped over the property line, and I calmly warned her that she was trespassing. "It's my land," she screamed, taking another step forward. "It's not, and I have the survey to prove it," I said. "And you're now trespassing, which is on video." I pointed to my new security camera. That stopped her momentarily, but her tirade continued from just on her side of the line. By now, Several other neighbors had emerged to watch the spectacle, some not even bothering to hide their amusement. When the police arrived about 20 minutes later, the woman immediately demanded they arrest me for destruction of property. The officers, both of whom looked like they'd seen it all, asked to see my documentation. I provided everything: the original survey, the building inspector's report, the cease and desist letters, the legal opinions, and video evidence of the continued construction despite official orders to stop. "Ma'am," one officer finally said to her, "based on these documents, your structure was encroaching on this property, and the owner took legal action to remove the encroachment after proper notification." "That's impossible," she insisted. "We had permission." "From whom?" the officer asked. "The previous owners," she said. "Do you have that in writing?" "We didn't need it in writing. It was a neighbor agreement." The officer sighed. "Ma'am, verbal agreements about land use don't transfer with property ownership, and they don't override legal property lines. From what I can see, no crime has been committed here." "This is ridiculous!" she screamed. "Do you know who my husband is?" Her husband, who had been relatively quiet, finally stepped forward. "Let's just go inside and call our lawyer," he said, clearly embarrassed by the scene his wife was creating. "No, I want this man arrested now," she demanded. "There are no grounds for an arrest," the officer stated firmly. "This appears to be a civil matter that has already been addressed through proper legal channels. I suggest you consult with your attorney if you wish to pursue it further." As they were speaking, the county building inspector arrived. Apparently, one of the neighbors had called him too. He reviewed the situation and informed the couple that they were still in violation of building codes, and now had an unsafe structure that would need to be properly addressed. "And you'll need to apply for new permits if you want to rebuild," he added. "Your current permits are being revoked due to the violations." By this point, the woman was beyond reasoning with. She stormed back to their house, screaming about lawsuits and ruined weekends. Her husband lingered behind. "This isn't over," he said, but without much conviction. "It could have been resolved months ago if you'd simply acknowledged the property line and adjusted your plans," I pointed out. He had no response to that and finally followed his wife back to their house. Over the next few weeks, I received multiple threats of lawsuits, none of which materialized. Their lawyer, after reviewing all the documentation, apparently advised them that they had no case. They were forced to properly demolish the remaining portion of the garage and clean up the site, incurring additional expenses and fines from the county. What they didn't expect was the community response. While I had been the main target of their entitlement, many other neighbors had their own stories. Once one person stood up to them, others found their courage too. The local lake association, which I hadn't even known existed, called a special meeting to address community standards of behavior. Without naming names, they established new guidelines about respecting property boundaries, permitting requirements, and noise levels. The message was clear: the entitled newcomers needed to adapt to the lake community, not the other way around. The couple's social standing around the lake plummeted. Invitations to community events mysteriously stopped arriving. People were polite but distant. Their parties became smaller and less frequent as fewer people accepted their invitations. About 6 months after the garage incident, a for sale sign appeared in front of their house. I later heard through the real estate grapevine that they sold for considerably less than they'd invested, given all the half-completed renovations and the now public knowledge of their boundary issues. The new owners, a retired couple with grandchildren, have been wonderful neighbors. Before they even moved in, they came over to introduce themselves and asked for a copy of my survey to make sure they understood the property boundaries correctly. "We don't want any misunderstandings," the husband told me with a knowing smile. "We heard about what happened with the previous owners. The garage was eventually rebuilt, completely on their property, with proper permits, and at a more reasonable size. They even consulted with me about the design to make sure it wouldn't block my view of the lake. As for me, I've gained a certain reputation around the lake as someone who knows property law and isn't afraid to stand up for what's right. Several neighbors have consulted me about their own boundary questions, and I've been happy to help. Last summer, I was elected president of the Lake Association, a position I never sought but have come to enjoy. We've established a more formal process for welcoming new property owners, which includes providing information about local ordinances, community expectations, and yes, the importance of respecting property boundaries. I still think about that entitled couple sometimes, especially when I'm sitting on my dock watching the sunset over the peaceful lake. The property line is now marked with a row of beautiful native flowering shrubs, my idea, planted with permission on both sides of the boundary. They serve as a gentle but clear reminder of where one property ends and another begins. The elderly neighbor who'd watched the demolition from his lawn chair brought me a bottle of his homemade blackberry wine after the entitled couple moved out. "Been waiting 40 years to see something like that," he chuckled as he handed it over. "Thanks for standing up not just for yourself, but for all of us." We shared that bottle on my dock, swapping stories about the lake's history and the characters who'd come and gone over the decades. His final words that evening stuck with me. You know what the difference is between having rights and protecting them? He asked. Actually knowing what they are and being willing to defend them when it counts. I couldn't have said it better myself. Sometimes, teaching someone a lesson isn't about revenge, it's about maintaining the boundaries that allow everyone to be good neighbors. In the end, I didn't just protect my property. I helped preserve the character of a community that had welcomed my family for generations. And that's worth far more than a strip of land or the satisfaction of watching an entitled person have a meltdown when they finally face consequences for their actions, though I have to admit, that part was pretty satisfying too. The next one is entitled People Story. My daughter, 15F, had her school's winter showcase last weekend. It wasn't a full play, but a collection of scenes and monologues from different performances that drama students had been working on. My daughter had a good role in one of the featured scenes and was really excited about it. While she never outright asked me to be there, I knew it was important to her. The issue was that my niece, 16F, had her first big art showcase that same night. My sister's husband passed away when my niece was little, and since then I've stepped in where I can. My niece is incredibly talented in painting, and this was her first time having her work displayed in a real gallery alongside other student artists. My niece made it clear leading up to the event that she really wanted me there. I had already told her beforehand that I couldn't come because I was going to my daughter's showcase, and while she said she understood, I could tell she was sad. The night before the event, however, she called me and broke down in tears telling me how much it would mean for her to have me there. She said she felt like this was one of the biggest moments of her life, and she wanted me to be proud of her the way a dad would be. That completely shattered me. I felt like if I didn't go, I would be letting her down in a way that would stay with her for a long time. So after the call, I spoke with my daughter and my wife, and asked them if I could go to my niece's showcase, and they did give me the go-ahead. However, the day after the event, my daughter was really sad and upset. I did feel guilty, but also I did ask for permission from both her and my wife before I decided to go to my niece's showcase. My wife, however, told me that I should have stuck to my original plan regardless, and that our daughter has even cried a few times since her showcase. Am I wrong? Update. Hey everyone. So the past couple of weeks have not been easy. I understand what I did was not okay, and I truly didn't get the depth of what my daughter was feeling until I had a long talk with her where she bared her feelings. And when she cried and cried and cried, it really drove home that I was the one responsible for all this. However, I think yesterday was a really special day. My wife encouraged me to take our daughter out the whole day and make it special for her. So I did. We did a lot of fun things yesterday. Went to a movie, shopping where I got her a bunch of gifts, lunch and dinner at a nice restaurant. It was a really special day. And at the end of the day, when my daughter and I came back home, she hugged me for minutes. It was the first in a long time she did that, and it was really special. Now having said all that, I don't think what my niece did was wrong at all. I was the one was wrong, not her. She just wanted a father-like figure to attend one of the most important days for her life. I met with my sister and her a couple days ago, and I told them that we had to be more discreet and also more empathetic to my daughter. I told them that we can still hang out, and we can still do fun things, but I can't do it at the expense of my daughter anymore. My sister and my niece were really open to it, and we actually had a great day and did a lot of fun things that evening. My sister and my niece are genuinely nice and empathetic people, and I couldn't be luckier to have them in my life. I will still hang out with them, because both are really important to me. But if there's a time conflict with my daughter in the future, I will choose my daughter first. The next one is entitled People Story. Throwaway because my username is known by my GF/friends and family. This may end up being a wall of text, but here goes. I've been dating my GF, Anna, for about 1.5 years. 5 months ago we moved in together, got a dog, and bought all new furniture. I've previously been married, so I didn't want to rush, but I'm head over heels for this girl. I made sure that she didn't feel like it was too fast, because she is younger than I, and this was a major concern. Anna told me that she was ready for this and we both wanted to start our life together. When Anna and I started dating, she was 6 months out of a 5-year relationship in which her now ex was distant and ignored her. Eventually she got tired of it and left him. I was worried I was a rebound at first, but she quickly alleviated that concern. I've tried to do my best to show her how nuts I am about her. I've never felt this way about anyone before. I tell her often how much she means to me, and I try to do little things like picking up flowers, surprise dates, etc. We've both been happy, but over time I've started to notice her being a bit emotionally distant. She would tell me she loved me when I told her first, and she would reply to cute texts most of the time, but she didn't really initiate either. I started to feel like she was just going through the motions and not really feeling it. I would try to talk with her about this, and she would get upset. Anna would tell me we're fine. Drop it. I tried, but it didn't feel like we were okay. I started to fall into a cycle of worrying about us, which would make her mad, which would make me worry more. This reached a head on Thanksgiving. We went to her large family Thanksgiving, 50 plus people, and I can admit, I was needy. I felt like she was mad at me, because she was being abrupt. I felt this horrible distance, and no matter what I could do, it just got worse. We went home the next day and she told me that she needed a break. I asked what was going on and she said that she was exhausted by having to reassure me about our relationship and that I didn't believe her when she told me she loved me. I left and stayed at a hotel for 2 days. When I returned home, she said she wanted to make it work. I told her I would try to need less, if she could try to give more. I really wanted her to take the initiative sometimes, and I recognized that I was being needy. We did well for a while. I told myself that she was showing love for me in other ways, making dinner, asking what I wanted to watch, going on dog walks with me, even if she wasn't taking the initiative in the ways I did. Anna told me she saw me working on it and we were doing well. Making Christmas plans, I asked Anna if she wanted me to come to her parents, and she told me she really wanted it to be just her family. Trying to not be needy, I accepted this and made plans to go to my parents. We celebrated our couple's Christmas about a week before she planned on going to her parents, about 1.5 hours away, and I was going to mine, 9 hours away, for actual Christmas. The plan was for me to meet her at her parents' for New Year's, and we would go home the next day. During our week apart, I started to miss her. I tried not to be needy, just a text every now and then and a call on Christmas Day. She also kept in better contact, which I enjoyed. I was a little concerned when I learned that Anna was letting her best friend plan her birthday later this month instead of me. Anna planned mine, I assumed I would plan hers. She told me it was no big deal. I tried to let it go even though I felt excluded. I also got concerned about our lease. We had a chance to save 5% in rent, if we signed early for another year. I asked her about it, and even though I thought we both liked the apartment, she said she didn't want to lock in for another year because she wasn't sure where she wanted to be in a year. This worried me. We had talked about staying another year. I asked, "You mean about the apartment, right? Not us?" I know it was a stupid question. She got mad and said, "God. Yes, we're fine." I apologized. I was excited for us to see each other on New Year's Eve. I'm a romantic, and I was hoping for the storybook giant hug, kiss, and I missed you. When I arrived at her parents', she came out with our dog and I told her how much I missed and loved her. She said, "Okay. Missed you too." No smile, no kiss, no nothing. I got a sinking feeling. I told her flat out, "I'm not trying to be needy, babe, but I was hoping you would be excited to see me." She told me she was excited. I was just more enthusiastic about it. I let it go, and we went out with friends for New Year's. I still felt this distance. New Year's morning we woke up. I rolled over and told her that I wanted 2018 to be the year we really focus on us, that I was excited to keep working on getting us to a good place. She didn't seem to care. I asked her what was going on, and said once again, "We're fine. Drop it." I told her that I didn't feel like we were fine. Why can't we talk about stuff? Why can't I get any real emotions from you? She went off. She told me that she was exhausted by how needy I am, and was tired of reassuring me, and she didn't feel like anything had gotten better since our break. I told her that it's hard to feel secure when she keeps making me feel insecure, and I thought she said we were getting better. She told me she isn't my mother and that's not her job. I told her I love her, and I want to make this work, but we both need to be working at it. She told me she didn't want to work at it and we were done. I asked her not to do this again, the after Thanksgiving break, that we can fight/argue/disagree and fix things instead of just breaking up. She told me again she was tired of trying. We were done. I dropped her off at her parents and told her, "I love you. Please don't do this. If you love me we can make this work." She replied, "I'm not happy. I don't love you right now." I left, and I haven't seen her in 4 days. I haven't heard anything from her. One of my friends texted her asking what happened and she told her he's a great person. He will make someone happy someday. I talked to her friend, the one planning the birthday, who told me I told her she shouldn't have gotten back with you after Thanksgiving. I think she moved in with you out of convenience. She likes you as a person but you're different people. Obviously not what I wanted to hear and I don't know what to make of it. So there we are. I'm feeling lost, sad, pissed off and alone. My friends have been super supportive, but I miss Anna, and our dog. I've been alone in our home. Sleeping alone in our bed. Miserable. I guess this post is part venting, part asking advice. What do I do from here? I'm afraid if I call or text her she will just see me being needy again. I honestly love Anna and want it to work, but I don't know how to make it better, or if she even wants to. I don't know if I'm being unreasonable wanting her to be more emotionally available. I don't know when she is coming home or anything. Update. Thank you all for the advice and feedback. For clarity's sake, I wasn't trying to win Anna back after all the crap she pulled. At first, absolutely, but not now. Of course I miss what we had, but I am ready for this to be over with. She told me yesterday that she is moving out this weekend. A week passed after the breakup, and I heard nothing from Anna. I took everyone's advice and did not contact her. I came home from the gym, also took that advice, one night and there she was, sitting on the couch, crying. I sat by her and she unloaded. She told me that she was sorry, that she had treated me like her ex had treated her. As mentioned in the old post, her ex was distant/unavailable and neglected her for 5 years. She said that I wasn't too needy, she just couldn't open up. She said that I was the best boyfriend she had ever had, that our relationship was amazing and I had done nothing wrong. I told her that I still loved her, that she was the best part of my life. I asked her if she wanted to work it out. She said no. We're done. I don't feel butterflies every day. I told her that real adult relationships take work, that you won't feel that new love butterfly feeling every day but you work on it and make sure you are both happy. She told me it was easier to leave that to work on it, and that was what she wanted to do. After we spoke, she gathered some clothes and left again, presumably to her parents. She returned a few days later and was a different person. I would try to tell her that I still loved her and we could work it out. She would act like she couldn't hear me or I wasn't there, like literally staring past me. Eventually she yelled at me, "Why are you fighting for this? It's done." I told her fine, if she wanted to leave the life we started, apartment, dog, furniture, etc., then she needed to leave. I told her that I couldn't bear to live with her as roommates and not as a couple. She said she would start looking for a new place. I told her I would be keeping the dog. She told me she hated me for doing so, and said, "See, I knew you were in a hole. I'm glad I left you." After a few days of sleeping on the couch while she was in what was our bedroom, I came home from work and she had moved all of my things, clothes, possessions, everything, out of our bedroom and into the guest bedroom and bathroom. She told me the master bedroom and bath were hers and not to go near them. I asked that we at least be civil to one another, if for no other reason than to honor the relationship we had. She ignored me and continued to act like I wasn't there. I told her she needed to find a new place ASAP. We continued like this for a while, her acting like I wasn't there, me being heartbroken. I stopped trying to talk to her about working it out. At every opportunity she would make a nasty or mean comment, telling me not to sit on her couch. We financed the furniture in her name, as her credit was better, telling me not to eat her food, that we had bought together, throwing clothes that I had bought for her at me saying give these to your next ducking girlfriend, accidentally dropping my toothbrush in the trash, talking on the phone, and loudly saying "Yeah, he's still here, I know he's in a hole," etc. She's acting like I cheated on her, or decided to end the relationship or somehow wronged her. In the meantime, most of her friends and family, including her mother who called me crying, have been asking what is wrong with her and why she is doing this. I'm not digging, and I'm not reaching out to them, but all of them are telling me she has gone off the deep end. About 2.5 weeks after the breakup, with us still in the same place, I was at dinner with a friend who was using a dating app. He opened it and the first profile to show up was Anna. She used pictures of us with me cropped out as her profile. I was devastated. When I got home I told her I had seen her profile and she literally laughed in my face. She said, "Yay, how else am I going to get over you?" I was mad, heartbroken and confused. I told her that it made me feel like we meant nothing to her. I asked, "Did we mean that little to you? You didn't even wait a month?" She shrugged and walked away. She left that evening, and didn't come home until the next morning, in the same clothes. She did that 2 more days in a row. I'm not an idiot, I've seen a walk of shame before. Sunday she came home to pick up some clothes. I asked if she was staying. She said no, I have a ride waiting. Don't go outside. I looked out the window and there was some ugly dude in a car. I couldn't believe this crap. I said, "Are you ducking kidding? Are you dating him or something?" She replied, "No, I'm just sleeping with him." Again, I was floored. See a trend? I could not ducking believe this. Less than 3 weeks ago I wanted to spend my life with this woman. A month ago we talked about buying a house, and now this? I said, "Does he know about me? Does he know that you still live with the man you said you wanted to spend your life with?" She said no. I told her I should go introduce myself and she replied, "Why do you want to ruin this for me?" I had no words. I went outside, she followed and jumped in his car. They sped off. I called her. It went to voicemail. I left the following message. "Anna, I loved you without condition since we met. I did nothing but support, honor, respect and care for you. I cannot believe you would do this and bring him here. You are acting like garbage. Seriously, you're ducking trashy. What happened to you? Don't you ever dare bring him, or anyone else, to my home again. I don't know what happened to the woman I loved but she is dead to me. I need you to move out ASAP." She returned 2 days ago and told me that if I speak to her she will call the cops for harassment. She started packing by putting my bath towels, hers before we moved in together. We donated my stuff because we would have doubles, in a box, as well as other things I use on a daily basis. She took the soap and toaster. Who does that? I tried to talk to her. I asked her, "Can't we at least be civil and decent to one another? We loved each other for a long time. Doesn't that at least mean something?" She told me it didn't mean anything. You didn't mean anything. That leveled me. After that she didn't speak except to say, "Oh, You probably noticed the hickey on my neck. Yay, I don't remember which one gave me that. I'm done. I'm disgusted by her behavior, and heartbroken missing the woman I used to know and love. She has told me she will give me 30 days notice when she plans to leave. I'm counting the minutes. In the meantime, it feels like she is taking every opportunity to hurt me, make me feel small, and treat me like I wronged her. She has even taken to ignoring the dog we got together, not taking it out when I am not home, then texting me your dog peed on the floor. You're not a very good pet owner. I wanted to thank everyone who messaged and replied to the last thread. This has been one of the hardest times of my life, and you have all been very supportive. I'm starting therapy next week, and I have signed up for a kickboxing class. I'm ready to move on, even if I am not ready to be healed yet. Are you hungry for more slices of stories? Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell to never miss out on any videos. See you tomorrow at Story Slices.